What is up, YouTube people? Eric here with Team Badman, welcoming you back to the brand new and revamped edition of BadBuilds. For those of you guys who know us earlier in the channel, we did have a series called BadBuilds, which was all about the decks that we were playing here, the builds and our ideas behind them. But you know, with time and just with busy schedules and everything, that's fallen off quite a bit. We haven't done a video in quite a long time. But I've doubled down on my resolve to really get that all back together and get back on a more consistent schedule with releasing certain series. This is absolutely one of them. So I welcome you back to the latest edition of BadBuilds we've got. And I've got a really fun deck for you guys to check out with this one. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. There's been a lot of asking in the community about Frieza decks in particular. You know, seeing that Frieza's got, you know, this really nice card pool, and he's got this fantastic promo level in his golden level 2, but it seems like Frieza's just kind of almost been a niche player, a little bit of an entertaining kind of side player, one that you wouldn't really run seriously for an event, because while he's got all this potential, he just falls short in a lot of ways. And while part of that does seem true, you know, we've done a lot of work here at Team Badman trying to really make Frieza work and get him really comfortable in a lot of styles. One of the biggest successes that we've had is Red Enraged Golden Frieza, also known as Iron Man, as developed by Alex here with us at Team Badman. So, you know, his original build was almost strictly MPPV based, you know, moved very quickly. And it utilized just a lot of very basic anger speed kind of cards that you would want to utilize. But you know, as time went on and some of the card pools really grew, you know, it started to take on more of an aggressive bent, utilizing some stronger physical attack cards and some stuff to really help disrupt the opponent. And that's where this latest evolution has finally led to. I've taken Alex's prior builds and his current build as well, you know, changed just a couple of things to kind of fit where the meta seems to be sitting at and where the meta might end up going. And just a couple of little side options that may have been overlooked or hadn't really been considered. And so that is the result here, as you're going to see in this video. We are going to take a look at Red Enraged Golden Frieza on this build I affectionately refer to as Iron Man Mark V, since this is actually the 5th iteration of Red Enraged Golden Frieza that we have tried here. So of course you're running, you know, Golden Frieza in the full Frieza stack, but if you really need to in this deck, if you don't have Golden Frieza, you can run the original copy Frieza, which still works out really well. There is actually more combo potential with, you know, Red Enraged Frieza without the Golden, because on level 2 you've got, you know, the discard effect, discard a card to copy your opponent's attack and it deals more damage. Which works out really well, especially if you manage to copy the right cards, such as, you know, Sagacious Strike, or something that raises anger inherently, like Garlic Jr.'s Counter Blast, or Enraged Blast, or whatever it might be. And that's where Red's anger comes in, is it helps him, you know, move off of that level 1 really quickly, whether it's playing defensively and just gaining anger that way, with some of Red's anger gaining blocks, or just using the inherent anger-based cards to get up there. So it generates, you know, some pretty quick movement, but level 2 and higher is definitely where you want to be. In particular, level 3 is actually a really strong point. Because of the extra +3 stage buff, you know, you can push through a lot of damage with a lot of the physical attacks here in the deck. It's easy to generate critical damage off of that, which is going to give you more anger, and in turn is going to help you just level and push faster and harder. So it's a lot of fun. It is a little bit more tempo-based than some other anger decks. You can't really just rush forward. You have to time everything right. But it is a big success. It's something we really enjoy here, and we hope you guys enjoy it as well. So on to the deck list. It's got a fairly sparse kind of setup and event lineup, which I'm going to hit first before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the deck. So the deck runs 5 setups. It runs 3 Red Relaxation, which is one of Red's best setups. You know, you use critical damage effect entering combat, gain 2 stages, and you get to draw the bottom card of your discard pile, which is excellent. You know, it's an extra way to generate hand advantage, especially considering this deck, spoiler alert, does not run Visiting the Past. So it's an extra way to get cards back from the discard, especially if you use something super solid early game like Red Static Shot or Red Blocking Hand, so that way you've got something to help you generate a really consistent amount of anger off of it. The other one is 2 Red Blaze, which is basically a reprint of the old Blazing Anger from the Score game. Raise your anger 1 level, rejuvenate 2, and use a critical damage effect. So while this is not an immediate copy, it's the spiritual successor. The big part here is the rejuvenation, because red doesn't have great discard power recursion otherwise. Sure, you've got access to a card like Red Catch, but it doesn't really fit into the theme of this deck here, and it's something I didn't want to run alongside it. So being able to have the rejuvenation from Red Blaze, as well as Golden Frieza's ability to rejuvenate named cards, it helps him get cards back, which is a really, really big key to an element of survivability in longer games, where you can't really get up to levels that you want to as quickly as you want to. So, it's really nice. I'm honestly surprised it's not banished after use because of how effective it is, but, it's still fantastic, and it's a worthy consideration. Next are the events, which are still a relatively light lineup, but they work out well. There are 2 red restrictions in the deck, which is a major player in the mid to late game, shutting off your opponent's non-attack based effects. So basically you have to attack or pass, and that's something that Frieza does really well. It's easy to draw in just really aggressive, heavy kind of hands, and utilize those to the best of your ability, especially when your opponent can't do things like escape combat with black power-up, or use the black searching technique, or use possession drill or an ally effect, whatever it might be. It's really effective, and it also gives you a net of extra effect in your hand, because you draw 2 and you discard 1, and while at the end of the day it's still a net 0 gain of cards in your hand, you can always pitch a sacrifice for extra anger to level while you're entering combat with it. Or you can get rid of, a dead card in your hand. Maybe you drew into a setup when your opponent entered or something like that. It's really easy to cycle bad cards out of your hand and keep all of the strong stuff to really put the most pressure you can on your opponent during combat. Next up is 2 Overwhelming Power, which serves multiple purposes in this deck. Being considered both a styled and a named card is huge for Frieza, because it's something extra that he can recycle with his level 2 effect, and it's something that he can pull out with his level 4, which is a really big deal. If you place it in your hand by effect, use a critical damage effect, so there you go, you gain extra anger off of it, and that's really nice. Frieza does have the highest power level in the game right now on his level 2, maxing out 150 million, so it's guaranteed that if you use Overwhelming Power at your maximum level, that it is going to pop something off unless it gets stopped or sphered or whatever it is. But, that's extra board control, which is something red doesn't have a whole lot of. Sure, you've got cards like Forceful Strike, but that involves banishing extra cards, and that's not really what you want in this deck. So, Overwhelming Power is a really big key. It helps gain anger, helps you control your opponent's board. It's a great choice overall. Next up is a card that wasn't originally in the deck, and that's Stare Down. There are 2 copies of Stare Down in the deck, and mainly they're used for hand disruption on the opponent, opening them up for something that may be considerably more dangerous for them. Say you stare down and get rid of their energy block, and you follow up with a card like Red Static Shot, which would be absolutely fantastic. That way it goes through, you gain a bunch of anger, you deal a bunch of damage. It works out really well. Plus, it can help you get rid of possible hand disruptors that your opponent might have, which was a real problem for this deck originally, is that there wasn't any inherent answer to any hand disruptors like Black Mastery or Stare Down and Confrontation. So, it was really easy to just pick off prime targets and really valuable cards. And this can actually kind of sway them away from it. They can say, oh, I don't want them actually looking into my hand with that Stare Down, so I'm going to use mine to get rid of theirs. And, it could really end up benefiting in the long run by you holding on to that Face Break or that Static Shot or whatever card it may end up being in the long run. And lastly, of course, is Time as a Warrior's Tool. It's an absolute staple. Stop attacks, stop all attacks for the remainder of combat. It's one that you're going to run in every deck, so that's a really big deal there. It's one that I can't see why you wouldn't include in every deck just ever. So next is the Physical Combat Pool, which makes up the overwhelming bulk of the deck. There are 31 physical combat cards total in this deck, so you can tell it's a very physically, very stage heavy, very aggressive kind of deck. But, there are a lot of fun little tools in here to really kind of help keep pressure on your opponent as well. So we start this off with 2 Sagacious Strike, which is, still a very, very useful card, though one that hasn't seen a lot of play after Wallbreaker fell off and, Cell basically shut down MPPV base decks. But now that all of that's been fixed and Wallbreaker might see a comeback, Sagacious Strike is a great way to answer that. It's still a respectable physical at AT +3, plus it's guaranteed to deal critical damage. If you really need to, you can throw it in a pinch, make sure it deals no damage, and it always goes through. So you'll get the extra anger off the critical damage effect. You can pop off an opponent's ally, or you can prevent an opponent from leveling, capture one of their Dragon Balls. It's just it's a multifaceted tool, that critical damage effect, and it's really, really important to have in the deck. So Sagacious Strike, it basically is worth its weight. Next is 2 red Tandem Attack, which is a really, really fun red-styled card. You're gaining anger just about no matter what way you use it. If you throw it outright, it's physical, AT +3, raise your anger 1. That works out nicely. But if your opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, you get to draw a card. So that can help generate extra actions if your opponent is on Cell level 4 and they use that extra style pull, or they use Visiting the Past when entering combat, or have Black Smoothness Drill out. There are plenty of scenarios where it works out really nicely, and you get to generate an extra card in your hand. Plus, if it gets discarded from your hand by an opponent's card effect, you get to draw a card and raise your anger 1 anyway. So that works out nicely. Whether you lose the card or whether you get to use the card, it's really easy for you to still get that advantage. Endurance 2 on it is great. The damage is respectable. It's a really fun, almost kind of gimmicky tool to have in there, but it still deals a considerable amount of damage, and it's consistent enough to make it an automatic entrant in this deck. Next up is 3 red Mule Kick, which is primarily known as the attached card hater. Banishing off Wallbreaker, banishing Black Capture, or whatever it might be. And that's still a lot of what this is used for here. You do raise your anger 1 off of it, which is nice. The Endurance 2 on it is great, since a lot of the cards in this deck don't really have the endurance that I was kind of hoping that they would. So having that extra, way to wick off some damage is great. It's not super strong, honestly. AT +2 is okay damage, considering that it will max out at 10 stages if you're on Frieza level 3. So it can still deal a considerable amount of damage, but a lot of the time you're just going to use it for the attached card hate, which there's a lot of that in here. So it may end up going down from 3 to maybe 2, or it may even get cut entirely in later iterations. But it's still a very useful tool nonetheless, and it's a guaranteed consideration for just about any red anger decks. That way you've got some way to answer what could possibly be the again ubiquitous Wallbreaker. Next up is 3 red Face Break, which is one of red's best physicals, hands down. AT +4, raise your anger 1, and you can discard a card from your hand to draw a card. So the combo potential is very, very obvious. You pitch red Sacrifice, you gain 2 anger, your next tech becomes unpreventable with its damage, and you get to draw a card. So it works out really well. It's a great combo tool, and it deals a really considerable amount of damage with that AT +4. The only downside to it is it's banished after use, but when it's a physical attack that good anyway, it certainly should be banished after use. It's very effective, and it pulls its weight more than enough to make it worthwhile. Next up are 2 absolute staple cards for red, and one of my favorite combos in the whole deck, and that's 3 red Shoulder Grab and 3 red Double Strike. They've been very, very obvious choices since the very beginning of the game, so that's awesome. Shoulder Grab, AT +3, very respectable. All of your attacks are considered to deal critical damage for the remainder of combat, which is the main reason that you're running this card. And when combined with red Double Strike, not only is your opponent going to be inclined to block that Shoulder Grab instead, so that way they don't, have to take a bunch of potential damage off of it, but, it really could open them up to getting hit with some weaker double strikes, but ones that are guaranteed to deal critical damage, so it'll lower their anger and it'll raise yours. So if you throw a Shoulder Grab and then you hit with both consecutive hits of Double Strike, that's 5 anger right there, and that's almost a guaranteed level. So that's just fantastic. Plus, Frieza can actually push through some damage with Double Strike. He maxes out an F at is level 2, so he can push through 6 stages there. Or he can push through 8 stages on level 3 if he's at full power with, that +3 stage buff. So it works out really well. It's an obvious anger choice. They're both fantastic cards. They're ones that every red deck should run. Absolutely every red deck. Next up is 2 Frieza's Captive Strike, which is, the very obvious name card. It's something that you can recycle on Frieza level 2 and 4, which is nice. But the main reason you're going to want to use it is as discard fodder. So that way you can, pitch it whenever you level, or you can pitch it to, a card like Red Restrictions. That way you can gain some extra anger off of it. Or maybe you want to hate the anger on your opponent and lower them one. That's totally fine. It's not a great physical attack otherwise. AT stages is meh. It's just meh, which is kind of bad because I was just talking about how great Double Strike is. But Captive Strike only stays in play to be used once. It's not styled. It doesn't give you anger inherently. The main reason you're using it is for the discard. And if there were a really better name card to include, I think I would include it in this deck at that point. But otherwise, it's still something you discard for extra anger, so it fulfills its purpose. Next up is 3 Shoulder Slam, which is an absolutely insane card in this deck. Raise your anger 1, lower your opponent's anger 3, which is one of the best anger hate cards in the game. Plus, you double the AT damage just outright, which is absolutely awesome. You can swing for huge amounts of damage. On level 2, you can max out for 12 stages if you're at F. The crazy thing is, that's not even the highest damage he can deal with it. If he's on level 3 and he's at full power, he can swing for 13 with that extra +3 stage buff, which you can see how in handy that's really coming here. It just swings for a massive amount of damage. The endurance is nice in a pinch with endurance 1. The anger hate is great. It hits like an absolute truck. It's a great addition to this deck, and one that if you're not running in high power level MPs, you honestly should be. Next up is one of my favorite perfection cards, and that is Android Headbutt. There are 2 Android Headbutts in this deck, and it's got multiple purposes, especially effective in red. You raise the lower player's anger 1 outright, so you can raise yours, or you can hate on theirs in a pinch. 4 life is very respectable for a free physical attack. Plus, if you hit, you can discard a card from your hand to use a critical damage effect. So, once again, there's combo potential here with the Captive Strikes and with Red Sacrifice. So, if you pitch Sacrifice and use that critical damage effect and raise your own anger, that's a full 4 anger swing right there. So that's absolutely ridiculous. If you've got Shoulder Grab's effect in play and you hit with it, that's a full 5 right there. So you can level off of just this one card. It's got some amazing potential in this deck, and one that should honestly be considered for a lot of other decks as well, because it's just very effective and it's very, very combo worthy. Certainly no complaints about this card. And lastly, for our physical combat cards, we have all of our blocks. Now, this deck runs actually pretty heavy on physical blocks and energy blocks in general, which, it plays in a little bit to Frieza's very defensive nature on his level 1 and level 3. Plus, it's something that kind of catches opponents off guard. And it's really easy to just get discard effects with this one. So, it's not really that big of an issue running so many blocks in the long run. For physical blocks, we've got 3 red blocking hand, which is arguably the style's best block. Raise your anger 2 levels, gain 2 stages, which is something that Frieza's going to want to do anyway to keep the AT damage as high as possible. On level 1 or level 3, it's a 3 anger swing, which is great. And especially if you play it early on in the game to where it's something you can pull in the late game with a card like Red Relaxation. It's just a fantastic block. I don't know why you wouldn't run it in any red deck. Next up is 3 red Resourceful block. And this one introduces the whole level hopping kind of mechanic, which is a lot of fun, and it works really, really well with Frieza's potential anger gain. So, you block with it, and you lower your MP1 level, and then raise them again at the end of combat. This works really well in the mid-late game where, you can't really, push as hard as you want to on that Frieza level 3 unless you're just really lucky. So, you can always throw a Resourceful block, go down to use the extra effects, and, use Frieza Golden's power to rejuvenate a card to get a critical damage effect, deal out extra damage, potentially get some extra crits. Once you go back up, if you've gained enough anger, it's really easy to start out on, say level 2 or level 3 and end up all the way on level 4 by the end of it all. Endurance 3 on it is just icing on the cake. It's great, it's very, very useful, especially with one of the other blocks that you're going to see later on, which I'm sure you already know what it is if I'm saying this. And lastly, we have 2 red restraint, which, it's just an outright physical block, so that's alright. But the discard effect is where you're going to want to really use it. If it's discard from your hand, raise your anger 1, gain 3 stages, and your next attack deals +2 life cards of damage. So that's really useful. It helps push through some more damage, which is awesome. The stage gain is great, the anger gain is great, and it works well with all of the other discard effects that I've gone over. So it's a welcome addition. I wouldn't run it at 3 of because if you're not discarding it, it's just an physical block. But it works out really well nonetheless. And lastly, we've got our Energy Combat cards. These comprise the remainder of the deck, so there are 17 Energy Combat cards here. And all of them certainly fulfill a great purpose. We start off, of course, with 3 Frieza Supernova, which is, the primary Frieza name card that you're going to want to run. A lot of the time it's going to be one of your rejuvenation targets for Frieza level 2 or Frieza level 4. But the cycling out that you can do on it with Frieza's level 4 and using Golden's effect is just absolutely awesome. Because every turn that you've always got a way to throw, a powerful energy attack that eventually your opponent's just not going to be able to stop. So, it can swing for massive, massive amounts of damage in the late game. It's a fantastic cleaner, and while the 3-stage cost is hefty, it's really easy to get that back as soon as you reach level 2, and with how quickly the deck levels, a lot of the time you may not really be worried about stages in the first place, unless it's just a really, really heavy-hitting, stage denial deck. So, a lot of the time this is really going to do some work no matter what you're using it for. Next up is 2 Red Tandem Blast, which is one of the most enjoyable red cards from the Perfection set. It's a relatively strong energy attack. 1 stage for 4 life is always really good. Bummer is it doesn't gain any extra anger, but its effect allows you to either lower your anger 2 levels or lower your MP 1 level. And if you do, your opponent can't play non-style cards for the remainder of combat, which is amazing, especially if your opponent is, knowingly pulled something into hand. Say they use Visiting the Past for a Stare Down or a Times a Warrior's Tool, or they've got a name card in their hand they really, really want to use. You can completely stick them with that just for the turn, while it may come back to haunt you later. It's just, it's a really nice slowdown for opponents, especially as freestyle cards really kind of grow in popularity. So, it's another really cool tool that Red's got. Pushes through some decent damage. It's certainly a no-complaint card here. You just have to be really careful when you use its effect to either lower your anger or lower your MP, because otherwise you may end up, completely screwing yourself out by the end of the game. Next is 2 Red Energy Blast. It's extra board hate, and while it can't get rid of setups, which really, really sucks, being able to remove a drill or an ally is great. You can get rid of your opponent's Orange Steady Drill, Orange Hiding Drill, Android 20 Scouting Drill, Black Smoothness Drill. There's plenty of targets for it. Or you can get rid of allies, especially if you're playing against a Ginyu deck, or an Ally Goku deck, or a Piccolo or a Krillin deck that may run Kami and Korin. So it's really easy to just get those off. 2 for 4, raise your anger 1. It's pretty standard, but it fulfills its purpose very well, especially considering that Red doesn't have a whole lot of board answers outside of the overwhelming power that I already mentioned earlier. And lastly, for the energy attacks is 2 Red Static Shot, which is hands down one of the best styled energy attacks in the game. 2 for 5, your opponent can't use endurance on any of your styled attacks for the remainder of combat, and if it hits you, raise your anger 2 levels. That's just super, super powerful, especially if you've got a really strong offensive hand prepared for you with cards like Red Face Break, or Red Shoulder Grab, or Red Energy Blast, whatever it may end up being. Shutting off the endurance is a big deal, especially with cards like Yamcha's Rescue floating around so they can just get banished and escape out of combat. It's super, super useful. And, it's a 3 anger swing if you hit with it, and they've got no way to, prevent any damage from it, or lower, mitigate, whatever it may be. It's a 3 anger swing that way. It's really strong in the early game, really strong in the late game. It's just a great card all around, and one that just about any red deck honestly should be running, whether it's physical beats or energy beats. It's completely worthwhile. And lastly, we've got our energy blocks, which is once again at 8. So again, it's hefty, but they've got their purposes. 3 red energy defensive stance for the first one. It's a very kind of vanilla block. Stop energy, raise your anger 1. It's got endurance 2, which is super valuable. So that's fantastic there. You can use it to mitigate damage in a pinch. It's 2 anger on level 1 and level 3, so that's nice. It does exactly what it needs to. Just no other explanation needed. Then we have 3 red sacrifice, which of course is a staple red Enraged block. If it's discard from your hand by a card effect, raise your anger 2 levels. The one I tend to enjoy all the more is that damage from your next attack in combat cannot be prevented. So that's a really big deal, especially if you're swinging super hard with cards like Shoulder Slam or Red Face Break. So that way it can just really mess up an opponent. You can just peel cards off of the life deck. Of course, the anger is great. The combo potential with other cards is great. In a pinch, it can always be a block, though of course that's never what you're going to want to use it for. So it completely warrants its spot. And lastly, we have 2 red escape. Now, this is the counterpart I was talking about to red resourceful block. Instead of lowering your MP1 level and then raising them a level at the end, red escape raises you a level, shuts off MPPV for the turn, and then lowers you a level at the end of combat. So, there's some really cool interactions you can do. It's a nice way to get off level 1 in the early game. It's a nice way to add more pressure in the late game if you're on level 3 looking to get up to level 4. So that's fantastic. And it combos really well with resourceful blocks. If you throw both in the same combat and you end up on level 1, you can decide the order in which they resolve. So you could resolve, escape, go down level, but you can't go down when you're on 1. So you go up with the resourceful block and you end up on 2. So it's just a really nice extra push right there. Otherwise you're just going to end up in the same spot that you were. But being able to, level and filter a card from your hand, and then at the end of combat, de-level and just draw a card from your deck, means that you can send out your full hand. You can apply as much pressure as you need to, and still have something left over in your hand by the end of it all. So that way you don't feel like you're at a detriment to your opponent. So that's going to do it for the first new and revamped edition of BadBuilds. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of work has gone into this and into the deck, and it's just been really enjoyable. The deck is a whole lot of fun to play, both with and against. It tempos really nicely. It does a lot of work, and it's honestly just a lot of fun to play. It's one of the very few decks that I've seen go from a level 1 to level 4 in just one combat. So that's most definitely a testament to its effectiveness. And it's hopefully something that you guys will take to your locals or take some events and really see what it can do, because it can actually do a lot of work for everything that it's got going for it. So it could be the return of the great tyrant, but ultimately we're just going to have to see. So if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to click the like button down below. If not, click the dislike button and let me know what you guys didn't like so I can improve it for future installments of BadBuilds. I'm really hoping to bring this back as a big thing, and I would love you guys' help and feedback with it, so be sure to let me know. Also, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button down below so that you guys can follow this series and all of our other series we've got going on. We've got a bunch of card game videos coming up, especially with Vengeance spoilers being out on the coming of OP season. So there's going to be a ton with the card game going on here. So you guys will definitely have that to check out. So make sure that you guys subscribe to us. And also, lastly, check out all the social media links that we've got down below. You guys can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and soon to be Libsyn. For those of you guys who don't know, Libsyn is a podcast hosting website. So we will have a podcast coming very soon here. You guys will definitely know when it comes out, and I will implore you guys to listen into it. Let me know what you guys think, and just really kind of check it out. I've got some ideas for it, and it's going to be just a ton of fun. Something that I really hope you guys dig. So that's going to do it for this video. I'm Erik with Team Badman signing out. So thank you guys for watching. And like always, stay bad. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Catch you later.